Okay, so we don't just throw this stuff together. The next session is maybe a kind of response to that call, which is talking about marketing to Generation Z and Generation Alpha. Looking across this room, I find it difficult to say this, but maybe not all of us are as au fait with those generations as we might be, essentially. So we thought it was very interesting to actually kind of kick the tires on some of the approaches that work, to engage you for probably the first time in an interactive experiment around these things. Delighted to welcome to the stage, and huge thanks to him for all his hard work in putting this together, Oskar's Killo from Source. Just before I do that, I'm just going to remind you again of the Slido, okay? It worked on that last session. Let's keep it going, kids. Oscars.
Thanks so much, Phil. Clicker. Here it is. I hope you appreciate the very on-brand Gen Z and Gen Alpha design of my slides. The butterfly was a choice of my Gen Alpha daughter, so lots of love in this presentation, so enjoy. So yeah, before we sit down with the experts in this space to talk about engaging the Gen Alpha and Gen Z audiences, we will do a little gamified experience, a demo. I'll give you a bit more info about that in a sec. If you haven't downloaded the app, now's the chance. And there's also the QR code will be also in a few other slides. If you'd like to test it, please do. So, a few clicks here. Anyone? Skibbity? Sigma? Salty, etc. Okay, let's just... okay, Boomer, and a few others in the room, I guess. So, yeah, this is the language terms, Gen Alpha, Gen Z terms that, I did a little selection of. But do not worry if you don't speak the language, so definitely don't. I don't. But you should definitely try to at least understand, where they hang out, what they like, what they don't like, what the values are. Obviously, the panelists in the previous session talked about, some of that already. So even though you don't speak the language, it is important to, it's important to understand the values and the trends, in order to meaningfully engage with them. So, who are they and where are they? Let's talk about that. So, Gen Z, 14 to 27-year-olds, obviously super tech savvy and spending more time online than any previous generations. And the values are, as you can see on the screen, things like authenticity. It's all about authenticity, and hence the very on-brand, slides and presentation. So very Gen Z, Gen Alpha. Inclusivity, nostalgia is a big piece, as you heard from the panelists before as well. Talking about classics and things that they like from the previous generations or decades. Transparency, environment. Maybe you can see in the description there, maybe a bit less hedonistic compared to previous generations. Potentially, not all of them, but many of them, I guess. So that's Gen Z, again, 14 to 27-year-olds. Gen Alpha, under 15s, so the younger audiences, very younger. And crucially, the first generation to grow up entirely in the digital age. So, yeah, they don't know, a world without smartphones and screens. So those are the proper digital natives, the nativists, the most native of, digital generations that's ever been, because you know how technology evolved in the last couple of decades. And what do they crave? They, again, crave authenticity, so being authentic. They can smell a fake or a, hard sell kind of approach from a distance, and they want to engage with that, so they love authenticity. Immersiveness is another thing. Edutainment, which is obviously a mix of education and entertainment. So again, entertain and educate in a clever and fun ways. Gamification is a big piece. We're going to talk about that in a sec, and we're going to play a game. And hyperconnectivity, again, just because of the technology and always being connected. And I guess the message is that the challenge and the opportunity at the same time is engaging with these younger audiences in those interactive, authentic, again, to emphasize that, entertaining ways across multiple channels. And where are they? So obviously we're talking about the digital channels and the different spaces online, not the real world, but obviously there has to be the connection with the digital and physical, because we are all about the the physical experience and going to cinema. But in terms of reaching them, it's crucial to understand where they are and engage with them across these channels. And they are engaging with their peers, with creators / influencers, with content and brands across channels like TikTok, like Snapchat, Instagram, YouTube. There's a certain platform that I'm omitting because it's definitely not for younger generations. But increasingly, more so, they are on immersive platforms like Roblox, like Fortnite, Minecraft and the likes. And also on Twitch, streaming themselves or watching other users, other players stream. So, and I would like to kind of emphasize that it's definitely not just a trend or a something that you read in articles. It's an actual real life situation. This is where they are. This is where they spend hours and hours. Not all of them, but majority of them do engage with each other and spend hours across these platforms. And I guess to summarize this slide, these are communities. So think of them, think of these platforms as online communities, and it's super important to understand and leverage that and tap into these communities in those authentic and seamless and engaging ways. So again, do not just sell, or just give them call to action. Obviously call to action is important because they need to convert and buy tickets when when they're ready to convert. But the important message is, entertain, tell a story, be authentic, be yourselves, educate, excite, and they will, as you heard in the panel before, they will talk about it among themselves, friends and family, and they will engage with the content if it's authentic and fun. And us marketeers, from both the cinema, from the exhibitor and distribution sides, marketeers are definitely busier than ever, figuring all of those pieces out and engaging, creating engaging content and working together to reach them. And as you can see in this trend, UK specific one, it's all backed by recent Comscore digital trends analysis. So a few numbers. I didn't want to have too many numbers on the slide in the presentation. But this is focusing on the UK market, and it shows the growth across community-based platforms like Reddit, Discord, which leans heavily into gaming, as you might know. Messenger apps, obviously a massive thing, and of course TikTok and Snapchat, as you can see, have like a very healthy growth metrics across the UK market. And then just to mention globally, obviously also UK is a major market for Roblox, which is an immersive platform / UGC games kind of universe where there's hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of games and experiences. And the rise of this platform definitely speaks volumes and shows the gamification element is a very, very big piece, especially among Gen Alpha audiences. And there's a few others like Fortnite and some others. So a major immersive platform that unlocks lots of opportunities to market films and IP to younger generations and audiences. I'm sure you will recognize some of these massive global cultural moments, memeable moments, and obviously box office successes like The Gentle Minions craze a couple of years ago, Barbenheimer obviously, more recently Wicked. You can see they did a Roblox activation, a few others, and my former colleagues from Universal will be, I think, talking about it in the next session. But there's also lots of other campaigns. They don't have to be global, massive, memeable, viral moments. There are lots of other examples that deserve recognition for tackling these new platforms using innovation and multi-channel approach, like Beetlejuice did an amazing job in the States though, but integrating with the cinema ticketing platforms. Dogman more recently across Roblox, Godzilla on let's see, dancing there on Fortnite. More recently, Warner's did a great thing with Mickey 17 on Fortnite, with kind of disposable Robin Pattinsons fighting, for you and your team. Things like that, Captain America UGC items on Fortnite, etc. So it just shows that studios, say with ad-pub media budgets, are increasingly more so focusing on these immersive worlds. So together with studios and also potentially, working with exhibitors in the space, it's definitely not just a trend, it's a reality. And just to conclude, so there's this Cinegame QR code just once more before we actually do the game. To conclude, so memes and viral moments are obviously nice. Everyone's a winner, riding that wave of massive global cultural moments. However, we as an industry, both from distribution and exhibition perspective, kind of really rely just on those moments. So how do we ensure the younger audiences, young generations know what's coming to the local cinema? And how do we help them embrace the cinematic experience as a regular thing, something they do on a regular basis, not just like once a year or something? Because those are obviously the current cinema-going generation and the future generation, and their kids will be, and so on. So it's important to kind of create that habit. So we're going to discuss that with the panel. I'll introduce them one by one after we play the game. But first, in a proper Gen Z fashion, let's all play a game. Just a quick caveat, it's going to be capped to a number of users because it's a temporary setup, so just not to crash the Wi-Fi. But in general, obviously, cinematastic Cinegame courtesy by Mikkel, who's somewhere there, and I think you can start rolling the game. We'll be talking about this on the panel as well. But just a quick background info: it's a very popular experience activity, pre-show activity. So definitely not during the film. Obviously, using phones, you can't do that. In the Nordics, and so it's a massive success. So there's a code there. If you got the app, use the code, please. And you will see yourselves on the big screen. So your phones will be the controller.
Let's invite Jacques.
Let's not invite Jacques.
Whoa! Sherry struggles on conference calls, but he's such a dedicated employee.
You're right. Hey, Jacques.
Join us.
Oh.
Some strong winds.
So you can see yourselves already. You can jump and wave. You can do stuff. Obviously, this is just a demo, one of the hundreds of games that they got, and obviously it's branded with a certain brand. But but this is actually how it works. That's the USB. Working with another brand in your market. I mean, in the UK market, in the UK with another brand, with a film studio. So it can be a film IP specific experience, a mini game, and it can be your local restaurant or a pizza place, whatever it might be. You can do that really because the tech exists. And we've got 1 minute. You see the countdown. It's just to get everyone in the room, and the total experience I think is a couple of minutes. And there's even a little prize. You can imagine what the prize is, I guess, by seeing the branding. But yeah, hope you can find yourselves on the screen. And then it's basically the gameplay for this specific demo is like a Super Mario type of thing where you need to jump. So basically you just need to jump and stay alive, and then there's a high score. When we tested it yesterday, James did really well and won no prize, but he won. So quick fingers, very 30 seconds. So what else can I say? So yeah, Mikkel will be talking about his experience and how to, bring that, the gamification element from the online and virtual spaces into an actual physical space. And as a pre-show entertaining experience, it's pure fun and unlocks lots of marketing value. So I'll shush now because I think it's about to start. You can tap twice. It will go. It can tap twice. Pum pum, and then we'll do another jump. I think it's a temp setup and too many people.
Excellent, yeah. No! Oh! No, I fell! No! I did, yeah. Oh, no!
Yesterday it was only 3 of us, so maybe.
Speed boost! Yeah, I've got it. Oh no, I just fell off again.
I think the system's slightly overwhelmed by all the. I think it's because of obviously it's a temp Wi-Fi setup, but obviously this is a thing across a number of Nordic markets, and with the proper setup, obviously it all is seamless. That's a good minute finish. I hope it gives you a really good idea, you know, the experience and the user journey of having your phone as a control and having different experiences in the pre-show of interacting with either a branded gamified elements. You can unlock, you know, different competition elements with this, and you know, engage with Gen Z, Gen Alpha, any audience really across your socials and you know, other channels to promote it. And if there's a partner, you know, a brand or a studio with a, you know, IP specific angle, then of course they would promote it as well. So thank you so much for everyone who played. Who was the last person standing there? Got a M&M's bag for you. It was Sylvia. Sylvia. Okay, if you could grab me, I got a yellow bag of M&M's for you, yeah? So yeah, thank you so much everyone. And now it's my privilege to welcome on stage my panelists. So Jade from Snap, please, welcome stage. Cassey from Cineworld, all right Cassey. Josh from Sony Pictures. And Mikkel from Cinematastic, who should be on his way from the projection booth, so he will be joining us in a sec. Sorry, yeah. Finish my slides. For Mikkel. Oh, there he is. He's coming. Hello, everyone, and hey, thank you so much for joining me on this stage, and thank you, Phil and James and the UKCA for asking me to put this together. So thanks again, guys. We will start with a few questions that will be addressed to everyone. So just go through the few questions like that, and then I'll ask specific questions to specific panelists. So a warm-up question, really. So let's start with Jade. From your perspective, so what resonates the most among younger audiences and demographics when promoting film and IP? Because so you work with studios and on a Snap across different campaigns. So what does resonate most?
So on Snapchat, Gen Z is a real key audience for us. We have 21 million users in the UK, and we actually have 90% of 13 to 24-year-olds in the UK on the Snapchat platform. So I think it's a real opportunity for our partners to reach and engage with that key audience on a daily basis. In terms of what we're seeing resonate really well, across the entertainment industry is definitely our augmented reality lenses. So, naturally everyone wants to feel as though they're part of a film, or feel as though they are transformed into a character, or, in the case last year with Ghostbusters, you had Slimer calling you, and then when you answered it via the augmented reality lens for Ghostbusters, you transformed into Slimer. So, I think giving the audience that opportunity to feel as though they're in the film, that's performing really well. And it's definitely, our users are sharing it with their close friends and family on the platform and kind of driving that talkability and that awareness of the film. Outside of augmented reality, the trailer content, that's always like such anticipation for trailers to drop. But also we're seeing that Gen Zs love the kind of raw, unedited videos. So anything like interviews with members of the cast or any snippets from premieres, anything like that, the audience on the platform are really, really engaged with it.
Thank you. Cassey, you might have a few comments on that, what just Jade said as well. And the same question, so what resonates when you use different channels to engage with younger audiences? What are the key things that you guys at Cineworld are focusing on?
Yeah, I think younger audiences want to be part of a cultural experience of the film release. So whether that's the meme, the dance trend, the random video that takes on a life of its own, they want to be part of forming a collective narrative together. And that usually happens by accident.
Authenticity piece.
Yeah, it's like what you were saying. It's not manufactured. So when it does happen, I think the best things that a studio can do are to, like you said, to ride the wave, to embrace the creativity of this audience rather than trying to turn a blind eye or ignore it or shut it down because of, some filmmaker guidelines. There are a place for these guidelines, absolutely. But with this audience, I think they really want to, on these channels, create a collective narrative. And that's a good thing. It's just different from the way things were.
Yeah, thank you. And Josh, from your perspective as a distributor, as a studio?
I actually think that you could ask the kids that were in here earlier, they probably have better answers to these questions than we did. I felt a bit upstaged by them, I'll be honest. They were fantastic. Especially love the kid who was sending his friends TikToks. If he's still here, he'll come and talk to me afterwards if you want a job. I really agree with both things, actually. I think, as a studio, we are engaged in working with Snapchat all the time. So we are putting out assets for the kids and the youngsters to engage in. So there's augmented reality lenses. We do a lot of that work. And it really does work. Also, we are very much at the part of you know, we try and jump on trends when we see them. And if, you know, we worked on Anyone But You, and it feels like a long time ago now, but it wasn't so long ago. And this great trend started where, you know, people were coming out of the cinema with the Natasha Bedingfield song. We knew in the DNA of the movie that was there. And we did work on that. And it happened organically, but it was about getting that track out there. We worked really hard on that and worked with them on that. I also think, you know, to a degree, you know, we did you know, you can almost manufacture these moments in a way. With Matilda, you knew that the dance and I'm sure you've all heard of Red Beret Girl. The dance that we did with her that went viral on TikTok, we tried a lot of different ways to make that happen, and eventually we got there. So it is a question of trying to make that work. Sometimes it's organic, sometimes it does, you know, from a studio point of view, happen to us, which is just the magic moment, and it comes along, you know, once or twice a year when you can make it happen yourselves. But yeah, it's a sort of cross between, you know, placing the content in the right places, but also, you know, jumping on what's there when it turns up. It's like a gift.
Cheers, Josh. And Mikkel, from your perspective, with what you do with programmatic and gamified experiences, what are the key elements that are important?
So sorry, just cooling down from the projector room. It got a little hot up there for various reasons. So I mean, Gen Z's alpha digital natives, obviously. Native digital media like Snapchat and TikTok and other native social media, of course, that resonate with this audience. If we, as a traditional media, if we want to play a part, I think interactivity, if it works, interactivity is key. You know. Offline media is a monologue, digital media is a dialogue, so we need to give them the opportunity of engaging. We have done some cine games for IPs, for Scream, for Trolls and other, where you as part of training for the movie, you make the audience game the new movie coming up, new title coming up.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. So that was the warm-up question. So another warm-up question, I guess, but the opposite, you know, on the opposite spectrum. What do you think, from your perspective, again, doesn't move the needle at all, or you know, what are things that you know we should be, you know, forgetting about or not using at all, and when engaging with them? Let's start with Josh, maybe. What are the things that don't work?
I have to be a bit careful here, don't I? Because
I mean,
yeah,
it's a
yeah. I mean, I think it's assuming that you can port one thing designed for a particular platform or an older media onto another one. It doesn't necessarily work like that. You've got to think about what's going on in the environment that the kids are on and trying to build something that works for them in that space. And I think we do try really hard as a studio to do that. I mean, we engage with people in where they are and on their terms. But it's not easy, and I think, you know, it pushes your creative boundaries, it pushes, you know, how you maybe set up internally and you know, sort of approvals and those kind of things to take people on a journey with you and understand that you've got to meet teenagers on their level in their environment. I also think you'd be careful not to go too far and patronise. Some of the language you put up on the screen, I like to shout at my teenagers as they go out the door in the morning, and that always goes down really badly. And it's the same if we put that in our social posts often. You've got to be careful that we don't go too far. But it's about meeting them where they want to be. I do like the engagement piece as well. I think that's really cool. I love the game. You know, and I think, you know, getting people to actually participate in whatever you're doing is also really good fun. Yeah.
Absolutely. Cheers. Cassey?
I agree, Josh. It's difficult, isn't it, to get the tone right and come across authentically and not come across as being too try-hard, you know, using a lot of the language that's there, and that's the challenge. But I think more broadly, film marketing is still in many ways quite traditional. Not much has really changed in the last 20 years. There's still really the same template, and most of that might work really well, but I think old ways of thinking when it comes to reaching this audience are going to be quite difficult. And there are elements like if you think about a trailer drop, which is always an integral part of a release strategy. You know, when we release a trailer on Facebook, you know, it works really well and we get lots of engagement, but Gen Z aren't on Facebook. And if we were to release, like Josh was saying, in terms of porting content from one channel to the next, if we were to release a trailer on TikTok or Instagram Reels, the algorithm wouldn't favor it. It wouldn't achieve the engagement. So then the question is, what is the strategy on channels like that for releasing a trailer? And there is a difference, I think, between releasing a trailer on TikTok or for us, let's say in our case, releasing a video of our staff members reacting to a trailer. And you can see that in the latter case, there's an authenticity there and it's less manufactured.
Yeah, cheers. I guess before we go with the same question to Jade and Mikkel, it's a good segue what you just said as an exhibitor and, you know, marketing, obviously films, but also other things, you know, your offers, your loyalty, your F&B. Are there any like parallels or different approach required when promoting seasonal offers or different, you know, maybe non-IP specific, you know, promotions that you guys do? Like, or do you approach that all of that differently from promoting a, you know, a film-specific promotion or a call-up with a studio, like Sony or others? Can you talk about any differences?
For me?
Yeah. You're the only exhibitor, so on the panel.
Yeah, so distributors are responsible for generating the awareness and consideration of a film. Our responsibility is to focus on the conversion. And so we develop campaigns that focus on the experiences that differentiate us from anyone else. So that might be the unlimited experience or the 40X experience or the F&B offering. And so we try to create content that's ownable to our brand by leveraging the film IP where we can to create that kind of ownable content that works across channels. So I think one example that comes to mind is our Venom campaign from last year, where we did like a spot where we had a customer coming into the cinema and being served by one of our staff members, and they ordered like a ticket and a drink, but the Venom voice inside wanted everything. You know, the Venom voice wanted more, so that they wanted all the food, all the snacks, all the formats. It was a great campaign in terms of being able to activate it locally and get all the cinemas to do their own version of the Venom voice. And Sony were fantastic partners.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was. We didn't plan this. Yeah, it was great in terms of giving us, you know, access to the IP and even providing some of the VFX so that we could like sort of deliver really a high quality piece. So I think that's one example. Another example that comes to mind is with Beetlejuice last year, where we did this campaign where we wanted to promote popcorn. And so you were able to get a free upgrade to a large popcorn if you said Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice to the staff member. And we had thousands of people, like literally thousands of people coming into the cinema screaming Beetlejuice, 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 and filming themselves on TikTok, and then other people saw that, you know, and it just, you become immersed in the experience of the film, but in a way I think that's ownable to our experience.
Thanks, and fun, like, you know, and that's the shareability element of it. You talk about, you know, this promotion with your friends, and all you need to do is, you know, say Beetlejuice a couple of times. Cheers. And then jumping back, Jade, like, what would be, on the opposite spectrum, some of the things that you see maybe are something that, you know, from your organization perspective, you wouldn't be focusing on, or in general, the opposite of what resonates, I guess?
Yeah, I think definitely similar to these two, that like it's the creative really on the platform on Snapchat. So, you know, what might work really well for the Gen Z audience, you know, like we spoke about, that raw edited, like the premiere content, anything behind the scenes might not resonate as well with the older audience. So I think it's just having that variety of content on the platform and kind of letting the algorithm and the platform understand what's performing well for the different audiences, and then obviously taking those learnings forward to future campaigns.
Thank you. And anything you've noticed across the markets where you operate in, Mikkel, that, you know, you would be kind of saying?
Again, they are not passive users. I find it fantastic that after running the Sin game for almost 12 years in the Nordics, we still have shows where the winner come up on the screen and everyone spontaneously applauding the winner. People applauding a 5 or 6 minute ad. That's very special. And you can only do that if you entertain them and don't just treat them as passive user of your content.
Absolutely. Can I ask a question now? I guess maybe Josh, as a studio. So, are you exploring with or experimenting with anything new at the moment, or any new channels that obviously there's a few logos there on my slides, but anything that you're kind of exploring at the moment?
Yes, good question. It's not necessarily channels that we're exploring. It's more about content that we're posting in the channels that we are operating in. So I think, and we sort of alluded to it before, the content that we post applies to different audiences, and you look at other brands outside of the sector who are doing a fantastic job with content, and it's figuring out what's new and different that we can try that will work. I mean, if anyone follows Aldi on Facebook, they are absolutely killing it. It's like the Ryanair stuff, and you kind of look at those brands and you think, what can we learn from them? How can we do it ourselves? And I think if you've got, if you're out there and you're thinking about posting for your, if you're an independent or someone on those lines, and you think, where should I start? I feel like just do it and go for it, because you have to take a bit of risk when you're posting content and try and find an opportunity where you're going to post something that maybe you wouldn't normally post but actually works. Research, see what other people are doing. We are in other spaces as well, so for example, Reddit, it's growing hugely in the UK. Snap, we've always been engaged with Snap, but it really is great for those. I know we're talking about the alphas and the X's, but the Zs is really good for that group of people. So we are always looking. It's a challenge though, because we with Sony Pictures, we're across a lot of the major platforms, and once you add more, you've got to sort of manage the content across those platforms. And like I said earlier, you can't just post the same thing across all of them, because it doesn't always work. So it's a real kind of challenge. We're always looking for the new one. If anyone's got any thoughts, do feel free to reach out.
Cheers, Josh. Yeah, absolutely. And as I kind of alluded to, obviously, marketeers from both distribution and exhibition side are definitely busiest, as they've ever been, I guess, because there's so much tech change and different things available, and different behavioral changes, all of that. Jade, question for you. So, can you share any info on any of the newest features or tools on your platform that film and cinema marketeers, exhibitor marketeers should explore? Any examples or new things?
Yeah, so obviously, like every other platform, we're constantly releasing new features, so I'm sure sometimes it can feel like, hard to keep up with some things. But I guess the one we're really, really excited about is Sponsored Snap. So this started to roll out at the kind of middle of Q4 last year. And essentially this gives our partners the opportunity to reach users in the most heavily used area of the platform, which is the chat functionality. We've been asked for so long kind of like when the opportunity is going to be arising. So so now essentially partners can advertise in the chat functionality. When users open it up, they're with a full screen vertical video, and then they can also swipe up, so it works really well for brand awareness, but also like direct response with ticket sales. And actually Universal were our first partner to roll it out for Wicked last year, and they had a fantastic asset from Jonathan Bailey, basically talking directly to the camera saying, hey Snapchatters, don't forget box office day tomorrow, swipe up to buy tickets. So I think that's going to be a real opportunity for entertainment partners to get really creative with the asset that they run in that kind of platform, because it's very different to just appearing in user stories. You really have that opportunity to have that one-on-one connection with the Snapchat user. So I think that's going to be really exciting to see how we kind of grow with that over the next couple of months with the studios.
Nice, thank you. Exciting stuff. Lots going on indeed. And before we jump into audience questions, there were a few others, but Mikkel, I guess one for you. So we played the branded game demo. As I mentioned, can be a brand or distributor partnership, unlocking different opportunities for marketing value. But I know there's another product or service that you're developing. Can you tell us more about that? Like, what's the new thing that you're building?
Yeah, I mean, a game like you saw takes around 3 weeks to do a bespoke game for an advertiser, different gameplays and to matching the brand's challenges and so forth, just like developing an ad. But 3.5 years ago, we got funding from the EU, from Creative Media, and together with Nordic Film Cinemas, we have now spent almost 3 years on developing one game. It's like a PlayStation game that we will start next year offering in the cinema. So it's a game where you actually you pay for a ticket. It's a multiplayer tournament game, so you can be the champion of your own cinema, or you can be the champion of our national champion, or even the world champion as we develop this in more markets. So the idea obviously is to get traction and to get more visits from Gen Zs and Gen Alpha. And as we heard from the panel, they think that the ticket pricing is too high. So I used to work for sorry for jumping around here, but I used to work for McDonald's, and they were losing visits, and in order to compensate for losing visits, they turned up the price for meals and for sandwiches, right? And the older part of the audience, they could afford the higher cost on the menus and the sandwiches. That's fine, but they started losing a lot of frequency among the youth, and that's when they introduced the Cohen offer. And we see this game as the Cohen offer of cinema. So it's a way of very, very cheaply, for maybe 3, 4, 5 pounds, you can go in and you can play this game. It's not like a competition against the movies. It's more just another way of getting them to come to visit the cinema, and an opportunity for us to show them trailers of movie that matches this audience. So always trying to find new ways of staying relevant to that audience.
Yeah, absolutely. Finding new ways to see, finding new experiences within this physical space, being together, and playing a game, which should also mean that they may buy some popcorn and Coke and F&B items.
Of course, we have put in there are 3 breaks for concession visits during a game. So yeah.
And conscious of time, so we got a few questions from the audience. Let's start with I guess the exhibitor on the stage. So do you think shorter content pieces, trailers, work better for Gen Z and Gen Alpha versus, say, full length 2-minute pieces?
Yeah,
across different channels, I guess all different things, but yeah, what's your take on that?
Yes, I think short form video channels like Snapchat, like TikTok, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts dominate because they match the consumption habits of Gen Z, Gen A. The content is quick, it's visually engaging, and it's trend-led. So yes.
Cool. And I guess obviously, Josh, you guys got lots of cut-down versions of different things, and
Yeah,
show lots of.
I would agree.
Yeah. Nice. Guess Jade, question for you. So exhibitors, how can they, cinema operators, bigger or smaller, how can they leverage Snapchat organically or different ways?
Yeah, definitely. So definitely from an organic perspective, we have our public profiles, and that's just a great way to drive organic awareness and organic reach across the platform. We also have creators on the platform, and that's like a really great way to kind of tap into their audience and broaden the reach as well. We've seen some real great success with our creators over the past couple of years. So I would say they're the 2 big focus areas that I would suggest for exhibitors.
Cheers. And I guess, do we have one more? Time for one more. So, in general, I guess a quick one, closing remarks across, the floor. How do you think Gen Z and Gen Alpha marketing landscape will evolve in the next year or a couple of years? I mean, things happen so quickly these days, but what do you think will be the next big thing or things?
I think Cohen from Depot Cinema, as a closing remark on one of the earlier panel discussion, talked about a congregational experience. And I would like to coin congregational advertising, because I actually think that cinema has something going for it in the future. The fact that we have a joint experience, I think that's going to be a strong way of communicating with the youth going forward.
Good one. Jade? Anything to-
That's a tough one. I personally, from what we're seeing specifically from the landscape and how they're kind of communicating on the platform, I would say it's all about their close friends and family. So not necessarily about, taking on board influencers that have thousands and millions of followers. It's more about these micro influencers, their close friends and family. They're the ones that they're really turning to get guidance and suggestions on what to watch and what to kind of go to the cinema to see. So I'd say they're really more on their close friends and family, and I think that's what we're going to see more of as well.
Family, community, quality of kind of like engagement versus deeper engagement versus like.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cassey?
Yeah, I think there's going to be more of trust, and more and less. I guess we can look at it from the point of view of the Gen Z, or we can look at it from the point of view of the industry and what's going to change. And I think we're coming around as an industry to the trust and idea that people, Gen Z audiences, are wanting to create, like I was saying before, they're wanting to create their own narrative. And I think what we'll start to see is that studios will be letting go of the narrative. They will be tearing up the rule book and just more willing in principle to let audiences create content surrounding their release. And maybe there are ways that can be unlocked to kind of stimulate that rather than just reacting to that.
Nice one. And closing remarks?
I will close by amalgamating those two comments. I think we need to give them content that they wish to share with their friend group and make it happen. And I'm stealing that idea from the guys beforehand, but I really do think it's relevant. We as a studio try really hard to do that, and we'll continue to do so. The short form video world is going to grow. Snapchat, TikTok, YouTube Shorts, all those places, Instagram Reels, is just going to continue, and we have to be there and giving them assets to share. And we do have an asset hub, just a little plug for Sony Pictures. There's an asset hub out there, and your independent cinemas are more than welcome to come and take our assets, cross-post with us, and all of those sorts of things. And I think exhibitors are lucky because they can post about all the movies, and we just have to stick to our own slate. So there's a huge opportunity there for you to be media owners in your own right and own that space, rather than relying on, traditional media outlets. You can have your own social channels. You can do it yourself. Why not? I mean, I think the exhibitors are in the best position for this. They can leverage all of this IP to great effect. Why not do it? Become your own media owner. Go for it.
Nice one. I guess Phil, yeah. Thank you so much. Big applause to the panelists. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you. Thank you.